Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue. Oh, and Michael Uwe has scored. Philadelphia takes a 1-0 lead early here in the podcast, and it is not the start Inter Miami wanted. Guys, welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue. Tonight, we are going to be spending this episode 75 to 90 minutes breaking down last night's game. We'll go over why the second half was so funky. We'll go over individual performances, the 11. We'll talk about everything. But before all of that, I'm your host, Scotty. I'm here with my co-host, Saur. How are you feeling today, my man?
You caught me off guard there with that introduction, just as Uwe caught me off guard yesterday with how quickly they pounced and scored. Hey, we got the 3 points. Inter Miami won. That's all that matters, right? That's the important part of the weekend. We are sailing through to that MLS Supporter Shield. Seems like all's hunky-dory.
All is hunky-dory, and I want to say two things. First, before we get into some of what's going on. First, last night we did our instant reaction, and we had so many people in the chat that came to hang out with us and talk about the game with us right after the game, and that we didn't have time in the half an hour we did it to actually go through all the messages. And A, I feel bad, but B, I just feel so blessed and grateful that you guys want to spend time with us, because it is honestly the best part is just being a part of this community and talking ball and talking Inter Miami. It is so fun, and you guys being a part of it makes it so much more fun. And then also, so are you. I know you've had a very hectic week. I've had a very hectic weekend. So I just want to thank you for being available and flexible and, being a part of this and helping to make this happen. So
Always a pleasure,
both you and the fans, thank you guys so much for being a part of this, because it is so fun. Before we get into the game, I thought maybe we could talk about the center back situation for a minute, because we play a game on Wednesday, and I wanted to give an update from last night, what happened during the game, and then what happened post-game, what we've learned since then, to maybe think about who might be available to start at center back on Wednesday night. As you guys know, David Martinez left the game in the 14th minute last night because what looked to me a groin strain. I heard it might be a foot problem. I'm not sure, but Tata Martino did say after the game that he was very unlikely to play on Wednesday. So it does not seem like a small issue, but hopefully it is take a week off, take 2 weeks off, and you'll be okay in 2 weeks. It doesn't feel like a season ender, but it also doesn't feel like the kind of thing he's going to wake up today or tomorrow and feel better from. Sergio Busquets got a yellow card late in stoppage time, 95th minute, I believe. That gets him suspended for the next game because of yellow card accumulation. And of course, Toto Aviles got that yellow card earlier in the game, which I think made some people money in our chat. And he is also suspended for this next game against Atlanta. We do not have an update as of this moment about Noah Allen, who had the neck head injury and had to leave the game late. And then also Ryan Saylor, who was not on the bench last night, is starting as we speak for Inter Miami 2. And so that surprised me a little bit when I saw his name in the starting lineup, because I felt they might want to keep him fresh for Wednesday in case he's needed. I think there's a chance that Ryan Saylor starts that game on Wednesday. And if not, he's probably going to be the third choice center back. So should we talk about what we're going to do at center back in this game on Wednesday night? Because pickings are very slim right now.
You know what? I think it's time. I think Tata Martino needs to put on the boots and take one for the team and go inside.
I wonder if Tata Martino was a center back when he was a player. I don't know that off the top of my head, but it's Christoph is available, should be available. Ryan Saylor, assuming he doesn't get hurt tonight for the B team, should be available. And Ian Frey should be available. Of course, Ian Frey, with the injury history, playing on that turf field in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I don't know how ideal that is, but I don't think that's going to stop Tata from putting him out there. And of course, Christoph and Saylor are not guys that have played a lot of soccer lately. So it is a very interesting situation for Inter Miami. And I don't know if there's any other creative solution, right? I don't think Jordi Alba or Franco Negri are going in to play center back. I don't think Telo Wiegand's going into play center. I don't think there's a creative option, really. Maybe Yannick
the way
Bue,
I'm
I don't
thinking
know.
about this is I have a feeling that Noah Allen is going to be fine and available for that game. So that would automatically help us out a little bit. And I think with Sergio Busquets out, Tata Martino might actually switch to a back three. So what I'm assuming is it might be Noah Allen, Ian Frey, and Christoph as a back three, and then maybe Alba and Cello Wiegand on the wings, or some sort of permutation of that. Again, all speculations. Don't really know how it goes. I don't know if I want to see a back two of Christoph and Sailor. I don't know if I want to see a back two of Christoph or Ian Frey either. And obviously not because of Ian Frey in that situation, but it's gonna be a situation where we're gonna have to score at least 5 goals to win that game.
Well, listen, the last time we went to Atlanta, they put 5 on us, and I would hate to see that type of thing recreate itself. And of course, I think we need a little revenge for what happened earlier this season. Listen, Messi and Suárez should be fine. I wouldn't be shocked if Messi doesn't play. I also wouldn't be surprised at all if he goes 90 minutes. So probably too early to tell, but I think the center back situation is very intriguing, and we are still waiting for an update on Noah Allen, but that is where we're at right now, and I wanted to talk about that. Anything else before we get into this game?
No, I think there's a lot to talk about the game itself, so we should probably get into it as soon as possible, unless we want to go 2 hours.
Right. So as we get into the game, we are finding ourselves down 1-0 because Michael Uwe, just like the last time we played Philadelphia in Philadelphia or Chester, Pennsylvania, puts in the back of the net an early goal. I think it is easy to blame Tota Aviles more than anyone because he tried to head the ball out of danger and instead he headed it right to Michael Uwe, who takes a step to the left and then fires. I think Martinez may have been able to do a little bit better. I think Busquets may have been able to do a little bit better. I think Callender may have been able to do a little bit better. I think if any of those three make a play, you say, that was a really nice play. But none of them do. And so in the end, it's a 1-0 lead for Philadelphia right out of the gates. And Inter Miami finds itself in a position where they haven't been in quite some time, but that over the course of the season, they have proven they can handle. You want to assign any blame for that one, or you just want to say first 60 seconds of the game, you can forgive a physical mistake or two?
Quick question. Have we broken our own record of conceding the fastest goal?
I don't think so. I think in New England, we gave up a goal in like 30 seconds.
Okay, fair. Because I feel like that we always tend to toe the line with that one. No, I think it was a little bit to do with Aviles' header wasn't strong enough. Unfortunately, fell straight in the feet of Uwe, who has been known, his left foot's quite good. He scored a very similar goal in the previous game that he played, I believe, against Red Bull. And as soon as he got that position, I was assuming that he was going to shoot, and he did. Martinez maybe could have done a little bit better, got juked a little bit with that turn. And then I think Drake Callender was completely outstretched, so not sure if he could have done much. It was quite in the corner, but it was more about if one thing could have been slightly different, the goal could have been prevented. But first 60 seconds, as you said, it was too quick. None of the players were actually in the groove of the game at all. And yeah, ended up conceding a silly but a good goal from Uwe, that's for sure.
Yes, and it felt like it was the beginning of a 25-minute period to start this game that was dominated by Philadelphia. We talked in the post-game show last night, an instant reaction last night, about how was it Inter Miami setup, was it Philadelphia? And you said you thought Philadelphia was really good. That is exactly what I saw when I rewatched the game today. I thought they were really good for those first 10, 15, 20 minutes. And I think they exploited everything that was wrong with that Inter Miami setup. Didn't help that in the 13th minute, we lose David Martinez. He goes out with, again, a lower body injury. In the 18th minute is the next big moment for Philadelphia. Quinn Sullivan tries to lead Michael Uwe down that left side. Aviles outpaces him to the ball and tries to kick it back to Drake Callender to help reset the play, but he leaves it short. Uwe gets to the ball first. Drake Callender off his line very quickly, and I thought Drake had a great game. To deny Uwe, the ball deflects out to Gazdag, who's centrally. Callender, who's outside the box, has to make a really nice chest save. The ball eventually circles to Baribo, and then Noah Allen makes a really nice tackle to get out of danger, but a really, really dangerous situation. And the second one that came from a poor clearance or poor ball from Aviles. But finally, Inter Miami gets into the game in the 26th minute. Jordi Alba finds himself with some space. He carries the ball centrally into the midfield, pushes it to Suárez, who just flicks it onto Lionel Messi. Messi just crosses over, to bring in a basketball term, crosses over Kai Wagner, and then he does what Messi does, puts it in the back of the net. I do feel a little bad for the Philadelphia goalkeeper, Andrew Rick, because being an 18-year-old and being an academy product and having to deal with what Inter Miami threw at him on the road last night was a hell of a challenge, but Inter Miami does even the game, 26th minute, 1-1.
Before that goal, we were quite dire. The passing was very lethargic. It just felt like every player on the pitch was 2 steps behind, including Messi. Every pass that we put in was slightly short. We were going very long for a lot of the time. I don't know if you noticed that. For the first 20-25 minutes, we were going long to Jordi Alba like 50 times, and Jordi Alba didn't take the ball down once well at all. And then when he did, his cross was way haywire. And then that moment of magic, the goal, I thought was absolutely beautiful back to front. We switched the ball so well from the side to the center and then to Messi. Jordi Alba switched it up very quickly, got control of the ball in the center, pushed it out to Suárez, as you mentioned, and then Messi just absolutely phenomenal piece of skill to get away from his defender and then score. Very nice finish into the corner. It just felt like it was one of those things where I at least thought for the start that we were still getting into the groove of it. We were slightly lethargic to begin with, slightly sloppy, but then once we got the ball into the right areas, we looked dangerous. So very well constructed goal. I was very happy with it, and it just felt like, okay, this is going to be the beginning of when we're going to get this game out of sight for Philadelphia.
And it was the beginning. Just 3.5 minutes later, Inter Miami takes the lead, makes it 2-1. Messi receives it from Redondo, pushes it back to Redondo. Redondo pushes centrally to Cello Wiegand, who's playing sort of right at the center of the box, edge of the box, who then pushes it wide to Alba, who then puts in that great pass to Messi, and Messi does not waste it. 2-1 rather. Lionel Messi, who I think you said it right, had a few giveaways early on trying to make a play. Not that it's a problem, just that, sometimes we see him do incredible things. I thought by the 25th minute, he gets that first goal, and all of a sudden he is prime and ready to go. When he gets that second goal, I'm thinking I'm going to get that hat trick from him. And then by the end of the first half, I think he might go for 4 or 5 goals in this game. But Inter Miami makes it 2-1 early in the or just after. And then Inter Miami makes it 3-1 in the 45th minute. Diego Gomez wins the ball in the midfield, pushes it to Busquets, and then Busquets makes that, exactly how you draw it up, pushes it to Messi with the entry pass, who has the really nice vision to pop it over to Suárez, who's a little wide, and then he puts the ball in the back of the net with a nice finish. Inter Miami up 3-1, but of course that goal is called back for offsides. But the reason I wanted to mention is because it felt in those last 20 minutes, the first half, that Inter Miami was dominating this game. After a slow 20 minutes, felt like they were going to go into the lead with going to the half with an overwhelming lead. And they were going to run away with this game, right? They had a bad 60 seconds, and then they were going to be ready to take the game for everything it was worth. And I was worried at halftime that the team was going to feel this way, even though it was only a 1-goal lead. Either of those plays you want to talk about? Anything else in the first half you want to talk about? Because
that disallowed goal was slightly it was a disappointment that it got disallowed, because I thought Suárez's finish was phenomenal. He had a very difficult angle to actually shoot from, and the goalkeeper was left in basically no man's land in the way that Suárez finished that goal. So slightly disappointed that it got chalked off. I thought it was offside, so that's fair enough.
Yeah, same.
But I will say it wasn't just the first 60 seconds, but 20-25 minutes, Inter Miami looked quite sloppy on the ball. It just wasn't clicking together. There were very big gaps in the middle. Everyone seemed a little bit slow getting to the second balls, and Philly just seemed on it. They knew their game plan. That diamond was working really well for them, and I think we should come back to that because in the second half, that diamond really gave us a lot of trouble. And I guess losing Martinez didn't necessarily help because it sort of shook up the back line. But then once we got that first goal, we looked really, really good. We were very slick, very smooth with our passing. So the exact opposite of what we saw in the first 25 minutes. It got a lot more quicker and we were getting the balls in the right areas that we wanted to. And then Messi and Suárez just seemed to have sharpened up a bit after that first rusty 20 minutes. So I completely agree with you. Going into the half, I thought this is going to be a 4-5-1 sort of a game where we should be able to take this game away from them fairly easily because the quality was just there. We could see that Miami was definitely a higher quality team compared to Philadelphia, who didn't necessarily go away. I thought they would go away after that second goal, but they stuck in there.
I want to rephrase what I said because I want to be a little more clear, and I think this goes into the psychology of the team, and I think that's interesting. Inter Miami, I agree with you, did not play well for the first 20 minutes. I thought there was a lot of giveaways that were really sloppy and from players that you wouldn't want to give the ball away. Jordi Alba, Busquets, right? It wasn't just Aviles. It was the guys you expect to be stars. And then they played really well for the last 20 minutes of the first half. And so what I meant to say is that I thought the players' attitude at halftime might have been, oh, we had a bad first 60 seconds, but we actually dominated the half because they felt the last 20 minutes were good and that they could just coast in the second half and not have to make adjustments, not have to change personnel, not have to switch up the formations, not have to have plans for when Philadelphia tries to get back into the game. And I do think that's how it played out. It felt like Inter Miami entered the second half thinking we have a 3-1, 4-1 lead, and we can kind of just do what we want in the second half and we'll just get away with it. And Philadelphia didn't give in. There was a number of really good chances for Philadelphia that they could not convert on, but potentially a better team would have. I think Inter Miami, if given those same chances, would have converted on them. There was a play in the 47th minute where Busquets has a really bad turnover, leaves them down 3-2, or I guess 3-3, but Busquets had already sort of been beaten, and Noah Allen had to make a really nice recovery to clean up the danger. In the 68th minute, Quinn Sullivan put in a really nice cross to Sam Adeniran, who got on the end of it, but he put it a little higher. I thought Noah Allen did a really good job of forcing him off balance so that he couldn't put it exactly where he wanted to. And so in this second half, for a long stretch of it, and again, we'll go into a little bit more detail in a few minutes about why, but for a long period of it, it felt like actually Philadelphia is the better team. They are more likely to score. Inter Miami is not particularly dangerous on the counter. And if they are dangerous on the counter, it's only because we have exceptionally talented players who are doing the counter, not because we're winning balls and getting numbers and like anything tactical or strategic. It was just all pure class and talent. And that felt like everything that kept this game in check.
Yeah, completely agree with you. Sorry, I was just looking at the stats. And if you look at the stats and the advanced stats, Philadelphia had the better game overall. They had 21 shots compared to our 9, which is a lot. Thankfully, we have Messi and Suárez who can finish their chances, because if you give any other team 21, I can easily imagine an LA team getting a 21 shots and they would score 4 past us at least. Their XG was much higher. I thought there's an excuse to say that Messi is a little bit lethargic because he's coming back after a 3-month layover. And yet the fact that he was the best player on the pitch was honestly a little bit shameful because everybody else who's performed so well in these last couple of months just let themselves down yesterday. They didn't perform that well. The midfield was invisible. Noah Allen was phenomenal, and I'm sure we're going to talk about him a little bit more. But yeah, it just seemed like we were trying a little bit too hard, and I know we're going to get into the tactics of it, but the second half was quite bad. Probably the worst half that we've seen from Inter Miami in a while. And honestly, compared to the first half where we played a really good, last 20 minutes, I thought the momentum would flow into the second half, but that didn't happen. And yes, Anton, I was shaking my head quite forcefully, and I already texted Scotty as soon as that happened.
So Anton in the chat says, I could just feel both of you guys, as in me and Saur, your head shaking when Tata put in Noah for Martinez instead of pushing Pussy back and bringing in Bright, but Noah performed. I'm going to read exactly what I said. This is what I texted you. I am blown away that it's Allen instead of Bright. And your response was absolutely wild. It was the easiest switch. Busquets in the back line, Bright in the middle. And then you said some other things that I won't repeat out loud. But yeah, sorry, I just had to stop for that comment because that made me really laugh. Yeah, dude, second half was really poor. I'm just going to keep running through the game because I have so many frustrations.
And by the way, I will say
a segment for it.
Yeah, before you get into it, I will say that, yes, I wanted Busquets to push back into the centre-back position and Bright in the middle, but I thought Noah Allen did justification to his selection in that position. I thought I didn't have any problems with him being in that role.
I have a feeling we're going to talk about Noah Allen when we get to the awards section. 82nd. So we finally make our first substitutes. Well, first tactical substitutes, right? I know Noah Allen came in the 14th minute, but our first set of second half subs came in the 79th minute after Philadelphia. I thought their best 15-minute stretch of the second half came starting in the 60th minute. And finally in the 79th minute, we get some subs. Kramaski and Yannick Bright come on. I think it was because Diego Gomez came off injured that we had to sort of make that sub. But the game really picked up from there, going both ways. Gazdag had an opportunity that he put off the side netting. Busquets got caught on the ball. This one, the camera missed it live, but then we saw the replay. Busquets got caught with the ball almost at the edge of the 6-yard box. And Philly almost capitalized. A huge play by Drake Callender to keep that ball out of the back of the net. In the 88th minute, Jordi Alba had a handball that he got a foul called against Alejandro Bedoya, which saved us. But I watched that and I was thinking, oh, we just gave up a penalty because Jordi Alba was flailing.
Was that when the foul was called, or was that when they had to switch out the balls? Because
no, that was a little bit earlier. Bedoya pushed him in the back, and so Alba gets the call for the foul on getting pushed, but his hands are way up there, and he just gets a handball. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't think about it anymore. 89th minute, there was another turnover from Aviles that forced Noah Allen and Drake Callender to make that last-ditch recovery, and this is the play that Noah Allen gets the flip and lands on his head or neck area and has to leave the game after that. That came off of a pretty poor turnover from Toto Aviles. In the 94th minute, another ball where he's trying to cycle it back to Drake Callender. This is Toto Aviles, and he leaves it short. He forces Callender to sprint out and make a big play. And then finally, we have our first good moment in about 40 minutes where Jordi Alba puts it across to Messi, who shimmies, he shakes, he taps it to Suárez, and Suárez puts it away. And so finally we could rest easy for the first time in about 40 minutes. Inter Miami wins 3-1. I think that was my first reaction to that entire half because it was not fun to watch.
That third goal was quite similar to what the third goal that was disallowed looked like. It just felt like in a little bit of different position, but Suárez took the finish exactly the same way as he did earlier. Again, dude, we got saved by Suárez and Messi and how good they are in connecting and changing the game. To sum it all up, Inter Miami had a poor performance, but we got saved by good moments. And again, this can be chalked off to some teething issues of bringing Messi back into the team. Obviously, he was the best player on the pitch by and far in how he delivered, but I think the rest of the team needs to look at themselves because it almost felt like with Messi coming back in, they sort of got this idea that they don't need to perform to their fullest or don't have to take responsibility for certain moments in the game. It looked really sloppy. The passing was not there. I've already mentioned it a few times. Philadelphia was the first to the second ball every single time. They looked a lot more physically ready for this game than Inter Miami did, at least in the second half. And you can't really... you can't excuse anybody there, especially with players like Aviles who constantly get that yellow card time and again. Gresso, who had a very invisible game. Busquets, who I thought had a very poor game as well. It just overall didn't feel like everyone was performing to their full potential. And listen, that can happen from time to time, but yeah, it wasn't a great watch.
Yes, I completely agree. I want to get back to this conversation, but maybe we can stop for about 3 to 5 minutes and talk about Philadelphia, because as we speak, they're 11th place in the East. They are 3 points out of that 9 spot to make the playoffs. And so they are a very real threat at this threat, it's a very real possibility that they are our first round opponents in the playoffs. And they have been playing better ball. I know they didn't add a ton during the summer window, but they did add Sam Adeniran, and I think he makes a difference against this Inter Miami team. This is a team that has a lot of experience in big games. And so I think I got more nervous last night about having to play this team in the playoffs. I think, other teams we might play, Atlanta, DC, Toronto. I think Philadelphia scares me more than any of those teams in a one-off, well, I guess best of 3 playoff series. I guess it doesn't really scare me if it's best of 3, but still, they are a team that has real quality, and I think they've added more since we last saw them. And I thought, well, anyways, any thoughts on Philadelphia?
To put it simply, if Inter Miami doesn't meet Philadelphia, whichever team does will have a little bit of a handful, because they're not going to go away easy. I think
But it's going to be Miami.
Yeah,
if they make the playoffs, it'll be Miami.
Yeah, so hopefully Miami can dispatch with them when we play them in a best of 3. But this Philadelphia team has an edge to them, and they are in good form right now. And maybe it's recency bias, but I thought they played well enough to get something out of that game. It was unfortunate that they didn't finish off their chances when they could. You mentioned Adeniran. Him coming in is definitely going to be an issue. I remember the St. Louis game. He was a bit of a nightmare to play against. They've also got this defensive midfielder that they recently acquired, Danley Jean-Jacques, who's been playing well. I think he came on in the second half late on, but they are going to be difficult to play against, but I don't expect to lose against them in a best of 3. They were good yesterday. They had a few setup changes. They didn't play their regular 4-3-1-2 formation that they usually play. They instead played a diamond in the middle, and the diamond worked for them. They neutralized our midfield. They took advantage of the lack of athleticism in our midfield, and as much as it had to do with their setup, Inter Miami's midfield setup wasn't that great. We were left to stay deep for quite a long period of the game. I don't know why that was. I thought at home we would play a high line or a slightly higher line, especially with David Martinez in there. I don't think at the start we were playing a high line either. So it was a really weird setup, and I'm sure we're going to discuss a little bit more as to why we set up the way we did. But Philadelphia came in with a plan. They used a lot of crosses. They used the flanks really, really well. There was a couple of times where what they did was just bypass the midfield altogether, pass the ball straight into Gazdag or their top 2 strikers, who took it down really well, won that second ball, and then created an opportunity in the final third. In fact, the first 3 or 4 chances that they created came in a very similar manner. Of course, the goal was through Aviles, but they had a plan. They stuck to their plan, and I thought they definitely deserved a point, if not the win.
Sometimes you see teams with a diamond midfield, and that 10 starts to really play high, and you kind of lose this numerical advantage in the midfield. I thought Philadelphia did a really good job of staying disciplined and Gazdag coming back so that they could create those overloads and numbers in the midfield. And I thought they won the midfield. I don't even think it's really a question. Let me ask you a question. Yes or no? Philadelphia structurally was better than Inter Miami.
Yes.
Yes or no?
Philadelphia. Sorry, there was a set pattern of play that they had that Inter Miami didn't have.
Yes or no? Philadelphia had a better tactical game plan than Inter Miami.
Yes.
Yes or no? Philadelphia played better to their standards than Inter Miami played to their standards.
Oh yeah, of course.
Dude, if you do that, if you do that in the MLS consistently, you're going to win a lot of games, but not necessarily on the road at this Inter Miami team, because this team has so much talent. They have so much depth. They have so much quality that you don't have to get the tactics right to win 3-1. You don't have to get the setup right to win 3-1. You don't have to get your personnel right to win 3-1, because you have so much talent and so much skill and so much class that you're going to bring some player who no one's ever heard of, that hasn't played in 3 months, back in for his first game, and he's just going to score 2 goals and have an assist. And that's just what this team is.
We found him in the barrios of Argentina, man. What a gem. What an absolute gem of a player. I'm sure he's going to have a great career ahead of him.
Yes, it's just another one of Tata's gems that he found from
scouting gems. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. No, but seriously, this team is amazing, and I'm sure, are going to spend a lot of time criticizing Tata Martino and the tactics and the setup over the next 15 minutes. But I don't want to start without acknowledging the fact that we are first place in the East. We are first place in the Supporters' Shield table, and we just beat a team that we think is solid, 3-1 at home, and we did it because we have the most talent in the league, and it's really not that close. And getting Messi back and seeing him perform and seeing him, I think gives me confidence that he's back. He doesn't need 3 games to get into his groove. Like, he's back. He's fine. Suárez and him played off to each other really well. And so I feel really good about that. I feel really good about hot take. I feel really good about having Lionel Messi on the pitch. But really? Seriously, this is a really good thing. Inter Miami's all-time points record was 48. We're at 62. So this is a time to be happy and celebrate. And I don't want to take that away from anyone that is feeling that. And even though we're going to criticize Tata Martino and the setup in the midfield and all that stuff over the next 15 minutes, we do it understanding that we want this team to win the MLS Cup. And so all of our criticism is only geared towards being the very best team that this team can be. But that doesn't change the fact that even what we saw last night is really, really good. And I do recognize that, and I do appreciate that. And I am thankful that as an Inter Miami fan, we get to experience this.
Yeah, man. You know what? There were a couple of things. So the commentator mentioned this stat at one point that Inter Miami is the first team to win 15 out of their 19 games in the non-penalty shootout period. So that's a phenomenal record. And also the fact that we have Messi back, who some people may have suggested that Messi coming back after 3 months might not be in the same nick of form, and he might need a little bit of time to get back into the same physical form, the same sort of, magic that he's so used to. Absolutely took him 26 minutes to get going. So the fact that he's still exactly the same player that we left behind for the last 3 months is such a big positive, and it'll only get better from here. You already mentioned the Suárez, Messi, I would say Alba link up as well. I thought in some parts of the game, in some phases, in some moments, it looked really good. And yes, you can have an off day at the office. That's completely acceptable. But most of our criticism is tailored to what would happen if this team plays like this in the playoffs against some of the best teams. So it's less to do with yesterday's game, and it's more to do with how do we win the MLS Cup. But completely agree with you, man. We are absolutely spoiled as Inter Miami fans. We've seen our team go from being absolutely terrible, not even making the playoffs, to now sitting pretty on top with 3 wins left to try and get the MLS Supporters' Shield. We've broken our record, and how? Like 48 points, we're at 62, and we're now going to potentially break the points record as well. So there's a lot to be positive about. There's a lot to be happy about. And if Inter Miami can reproduce some of the form that they had in the 20 minutes against Philadelphia, we would be having a completely different conversation.
Yeah. I also want to say one other thing, because we're going to talk about the style, and we'll get to the starting 11 in 1 second. But overall, I didn't think Avidas had a good game. I didn't think Gressel had a good game. I didn't think Busquets had a good game. I didn't think Gomez had a good game by his standards. I didn't think Jordi Alba had a good game outside of a few key passes that led to goals. But I think on a minute-to-minute basis, he wasn't particularly good. That said, none of their performances concern me long-term in terms of, like, I think they'll all bounce back on Wednesday if they play on Wednesday. Like, I'm not worried about Busquets. And so even though I might say something critical about Busquets or Gomez or whatever, it's not about the player. It's just the performance. And I think all of them are going to rewatch the film and think, I could have been a lot better in that game.
Also, it was raining, man. And we know what happens when the Barcelona boys play in rain.
I didn't think it was raining, really.
It was, a little bit.
Okay, maybe a little bit. It's the pouring rain that Jordi Alba hates. But, okay. Now let's, if you don't want to hear the negativity, just skip the next 15 minutes. The starting 11 last night, and I'll take out Drake Callender. So the outfield 10 were Marcelo Wigan at right back, Tota Aviles and David Martinez at center back, Alba at left back, Redondo, Gressel, and Sergio Busquets in the midfield, Diego Gomez, Luis Suarez, and Lionel Messi up top. Take out the Barcelona guys. Everyone else on the field was promised by Tata Martino that he will be a starter when they were recruited to Inter Miami. True or false?
True.
Everyone on the bench was not given that promise. True or false?
Of course.
We talked in the pregame show about this 11, this personnel, this midfield, and maybe the right back situation, whatever. These are the 10 players, and you can include Messi, even though Tata didn't actually have to promise him that. But like based on their stature and based on what Tata Martino has said to them in order to recruit them to Inter Miami, these are the guys that were promised starts, and everyone else on the team was not given those promises. You think that's true?
Yeah, and Tata Martino mentioned this in one of his pressers, and it was mentioned at commentary yesterday, that he has said that as long as he has his best players available, he's going to play them. And that 11 that we saw yesterday in Tata's mind are his best players. So
do you think they're actually do you think he actually thinks that, or do you think he feels like he promised these guys to be the starters?
I think it's a bit of both. I think it's a little bit of both. He also has the ego of being like, I brought these players to the team and they're my players, so I'm going to play them first. That's obviously a case. So it's a bit of both.
I know that we talk a lot about Ian Frey and Cello Wigan. Cello wasn't bad in last night's game. Ian Frey hasn't played a ton of right back, so it's just like a few samples that we got really excited about and we wanted to see more. But I don't think it's a question that Yannick Bright has been one of our best midfielders for months. Robert Taylor has disappeared. Leo Campana hasn't played much. Benjamin Kramaski has not gotten a start in quite some time. And yet we see basic performances that would get any of the guys I just mentioned an opportunity on the bench or off the bench and out of the starting lineup have kind of gone forgiven by these 10 players consistently. And it feels like most of the opportunities that have come for other players have come when there's been injuries or suspensions or whatever, international duty. This is the 10 he's going to go with, isn't it? Because these are the guys that he told he was going to be, these were going to be his guys. That's what he said.
When they're available, that's the 10 he's going to pick. Every single time. And you mentioned Robert Taylor, and I think we should have a conversation about this in one of our midweek episodes. His disappearance has been, like, his rise from fall has been massive. Yesterday, when Diego Gomez came off,
hold on, let's stop.
I genuinely thought Robert Taylor would be on.
We're going to talk about this in one of my awards. So we can have this conversation in when we get to awards. I just wanted to say that about the 11 because this is the first time we have seen these guys all be available and healthy. And I don't even think Matías Rojas is in this conversation because I think he knew he was going to be sort of a role player or a rotation piece when he came in. These 10, though, were all promised to be the starters when they were brought to Inter Miami, and they were all promised by Tata Martino. And he is delivering on that promise, even if it's maybe not putting out the best team or the most cohesive team as a result. Let's talk about the midfield.
Wait, just to your point on that, I think you're 100% right. If we are in the final of the MLS Cup, we're going up against, let's say, LA Galaxy. If Tata Martino has all his players fit, this is the 11 that he's going to pick. No doubt in my mind. And it's also not that he doesn't realize that some other players are better. I just think he genuinely thinks this is his best 11. So either he's not able to get something out of them that he thinks is there, or he just doesn't value some of the players on the bench as much. Because for me, it's not only just that he promised them that he's going to start them, it's also that he thinks this is the best way to get this Inter Miami team playing at the highest level. So I don't doubt him starting the 11 against a team like LA Galaxy in the playoffs.
Part of me thinks it's more about the promise than the play, because I think it's quite obvious that this 11 doesn't fit well together. With that said, let's talk about the midfield. Busquets, Gressel, and Federico Redondo in the midfield doesn't work, man. We got run through for 90 minutes. There was not a single point in the game where we controlled the midfield. There was not a single point in the game where we were effective stopping transition, stopping them running through our midfield. I remember specifically in like the 83rd minute, 85th minute, something like that. There was a play where the ball went over to the right and Kramaski stopped it with his back. He wasn't even trying, just the ball hit him in the back and he won the ball. And I was just thinking, that is so interesting because I haven't seen that for 93 minutes. And he did it with his back turned 3 minutes after coming in. It was bad, dude. The midfield play was bad. And if you are a team as good as Inter Miami, and if you are a team with as many midfield options and talented midfield options Inter Miami has, you dominate the midfield, you win the game. It's that simple. That is how you win games in this sport, especially in athletic leagues like the MLS is. You dominate the midfield, you're going to win the games. You don't need to get everyone forward. You don't need to have some specific midfield just geared towards helping Messi. Messi, Suárez, they're going to score goals. They're going to score goals. You are going to get the offense. You have Jordi Alba running down that left flank. You are going to get offense. You don't need your midfield oriented just to help Messi because Messi doesn't need that. You need a midfield that's going to dominate the game to get Messi more opportunities. That's going to get you more time on the ball so you can create more opportunities for Messi. And you need a midfield that is going to suffocate the opposition team when they are trying to get going, when they are trying to grab hold of the game. Don't let them do that. Win the midfield and you will win the MLS Cup. It is that simple. And Tata seemingly does not understand this. And it has been my complaint for months. And he got a little bit better over the last couple of months because Yannick Bright is such a key player in the midfield. And he helps you win the midfield so effectively. But the minute Messi came back, we went back to exactly what we were doing 4 months ago when we never won the midfield. And it is so unbelievably frustrating. Go ahead.
You good, man?
No.
Do you need a hug? We won.
Okay, I'm ready to say more. No, I'm ready to say more. Who's the best midfielder on this team?
Sergio Busquets.
Who's the second best midfielder on this team?
Currently in form, Yannick Bright.
Okay, I would say it's Diego Gomez.
Oh, yeah, Diego Gomez. I mean, he's playing left wing, so.
Okay, who's the best midfielder on this team?
Third best.
No, Busquets. Busquets.
Yes,
who's the second best? Gomez. How do you round out a midfield that has Busquets and Gomez in it?
Right.
You put a defensive midfielder that's going to cover for them. That's how you build a midfield. It's so easy. Gressel does not complement Sergio Busquets at all. And it's not because Gressel is a bad player. It's not because Busquets is a bad player. It's just they don't work together well. And Redondo does not solve the problem between the other two. This midfield does not have the chemistry. It does not have the balance. It does not have the structure or the stability to be an effective midfield in this league. It is not because any of the players individually are not good. It's not because any of them don't have talent. It's not because any of them are awful or anything like that. It's just it doesn't fit together. And the reason that they got opportunity after opportunity and they could control the ball in the second half was because we had that midfield playing. Okay, now I need a hug. Go ahead.
I feel like we have this conversation once every month, so I'm a little bit tired of repeating the points. But even if you don't consider Bright as a top-level midfielder, let's say he's not even available, right? I would think putting Benjamin Kramaski in there instead of Gressel would have been a big difference. I thought that would have elevated some of the physicality that we lacked in the midfield by a lot. There were instances, I think, in the first half, the 23rd minute, where Redondo and Gressel were both marking a player who was on the ball, and they didn't close him down at all. They just waited in front of him, trying to see what he does. And then he put in a line-breaking pass that led to an opportunity for Philadelphia. And that was the perfect representation of what was happening in that midfield. They don't have the legs to cover the ground the way we want them to, the way we need them to compete, especially against a diamond when there's an overload in the midfield. So they tried to sit back a little bit, and it almost felt like we were playing a very defensive low block because both Redondo and Gressel
in the second half,
were sitting back a lot. Gressel, for large parts of the game, and I'm not sure if this was in the second half when we switched to a back five, but for large parts of the game, he was in the right wing area. He wasn't even in the midfield.
Yeah, okay. So I got more to say, I promise. Here's the thing. Here's what was happening yesterday. Busquets is not particularly athletic, and that's okay. You don't have to be a freak athlete to play in the midfield. But you also can't be relied on as if you're a freak athlete if you're not a freak athlete. So Busquets was moving up and down the field, trying to be defensive when he felt that was necessary, when he trying to be attacking, when he's trying to connect up the field. That's all fine. But the problem is the problem is Gressel is playing out wide, and he's then drifting in and out between the central part of the pitch and out wide because he thinks his best way to impact the game going forward is out wide, and that's true. But then he knows he has these responsibilities in the midfield. So he's not always, but he's frequently out of position and incapable of making a play because he's trying to have an impact, right? That's not a problem with Gressel's play style. It's not a problem with his talent. It's a problem of you are asking a player to do something that isn't his style of play. You're asking him to do something that he's not going to do effectively, and he's not going to impact the game if this is what he's being forced to do. So you already have this problem where you have Busquets up and down, out of position defensively, and then you have Gressel out on the right side where he's not able to effectively impact and cover for Busquets. And then Redondo, who was fine yesterday, he was fine, but he isn't the profile player that's going to cover for this mess on the other side. He's not that defensive machine. And then he's being asked to be, but by doing that, he's no longer allowed to play high up the field, which is where he's at his best, where he's making those high pressing, when he's getting those turnovers high up the field with his pressing, with his long legs, making it difficult to play around him, or when he's making those late runs into the box where he can be a goal scoring threat. He's not allowed to do that because he has to go cover for the other two. And so you are by putting Redondo in this midfield, you're making him worse. You're not letting him do what he's best at. By putting Gressel in this midfield, you're making him worse because you're not letting him do what he's best at. And then Busquets is just there trying to solve all of these problems, and he's only one man. This midfield doesn't work, and it's so clear to me, and it feels so unobvious to Tata Martino.
I don't know how many times I've said this already, but it's about profiles and fitting together a midfield that works well. It's not about talent. You can put together the best three midfielders in the history of football, but if they don't complement each other's play style, they'll never be able to get to the level that we need them to be. And Tony in the chat mentioned that easy solution is to switch Redondo out for Bright, but that decision is a minefield. No, I think switch Gressel out for Bright. And I think that's still a better midfield than Gressel, Busquets, and Bright. I think Redondo, Bright, and Busquets is a much better midfield. And honestly, one that we've sort of seen over the last couple of months. And I think that still works. But I completely agree with you in this, man. And I don't want to keep harping on about this point, but it just seems like at this point in time, there's absolutely no use even discussing what the right midfield profile is, because it's not going to change. Tata Martino is not going to make any changes when it comes to his midfield. This is it. This is what we're stuck with.
No.
Also, sorry, I want to say one more thing. I don't even see Gressel as a midfielder at this point. I don't think he's a midfielder. I think he's a right winger. And that's where he should be playing when Messi is unavailable. That's where he should be coming off the bench. He's a great player who can contribute a lot to this team. But midfield is not the position that he's in, especially with the kind of midfielders that we have sitting on the bench.
Gressel, I think, can play in the midfield off the bench. And I think Gressel can play the midfield if you put Yannick Bright behind him and if you put Diego Gomez next to him. Like, I don't want to – it's not about Julian Gressel. It's really not. And I know he gets a lot of criticism, and he has a lot when he's been in the midfield, but it's not about Julian Gressel. It's just about the setup. And as you said, the player roles. I am not talking about the midfield because I want to convince Tata Martino to change his mind. I know he's not going to. I get that. But at some point, it's just therapy for me because I am so frustrated. And honestly, the reason I ever went online and talked to a single other Inter Miami fan was because I was tired of Jose Martinez playing over Leo Campana. Like, this is what this is all about, is talking to your friends and to other Inter Miami fans about, what could be better and what is going wrong with the team and why this decision is wrong. And so I don't want to avoid it just because we've done it a million times, because I think it can be healthy to just understand that either we are alone and we're crazy, or we're not alone and everyone else sees it too, but the coach. With that said, I can move on from the midfield now. In the second half, we switched to a 5-3-2, which at one point this season had become the
Devil's formation.
The Devil's formation. And we've seen over the last 2 months, we had a three-man back, a formation with three men in the back that worked, but it was with three attackers, two in the midfield, whether it was sort of a 3-4-3 or a 5-2-3. But The 5-3-2 is what we were playing in that second half. Busquets dropped into the back line, especially after the 60th minute. Gomez jumped into the midfield. And then all of a sudden, it was all the problems that we had early in the season when we were playing the 3-5-2 or 5-3-2 or whatever, where our center backs were playing way too wide. Busquets is the only central defender when we were high up in possession that was having to try and cover things in transition. It was really, really tough to watch. And then, of course, all the problems with not having enough width up the field to create offense. We were trying to play in transition because we knew we couldn't hit down the wings unless it was Jordi Alba, but then he had responsibility going the other way. It was a mess in the second half, man. And then Tata did nothing to change it forever. Again.
I don't know what else to add than to just nod along and shake your hand on this, because I feel like you need the vent session. But you're completely right, man. The problem is I'm not even at the point where I want to vent. I'm at the point where I'm exhausted talking about the same thing again and again, because Tata Martino will continue to do that. And we're not Tata out, guys. We're not saying Tata Martino needs to get out. No, that's not what this podcast is about. That's not how we approach certain situations in games. It's just we want to maximize the best that this team has to offer, this roster has to offer. And it's, again, a therapy session for us to try and figure out what the best starting 11 is going to be. And I hope for once, for our sake, for Drive Pink Dialogue's sake, we see that lineup at least once this season, whether it's that last game against New England or whatever it is. But yes, there were instances in that second half where I was thinking to myself, this is not good for us. Like, we're not looking good playing this game, because Philadelphia was quite on top. And the fact that we actually got that third goal was very surprising. They couldn't finish their chances. Adeniran came on and he had like 3 chances to score. His header was wayward like 2 times when it was point blank. Drake Callender had some really good saves. There was one, I believe, I think it was Baribo. That's the striker's name, right?
Yeah.
He had a point blank chance in like the first 10 minutes of the second half that he put wide that could have easily curled into the top corner and they could have scored. The thing is, we can't keep relying on individual magic to win games. And I know it's going to happen. And it's a beautiful thing to watch when it does come together with Messi pulling us out of trouble. But this team is so much more than just relying on Messi. I want this team to be helping Messi out rather than seeking help from him, you know? It feels like we've based ourselves on a foundation of, oh, Messi's going to save us if we're in trouble. That's not how it should be. We should be uplifting Messi and letting him play and enjoy his football to the absolute maximum. And this team could score 7 past every other MLS team if we actually pick the right 11 and if we have the right players on the pitch at the same time. Because this roster is phenomenal. We just need to use it properly.
Can I potentially summarize that last part, what you're trying to say? I think what you want is Inter Miami to dominate defensively in the midfield and in attack and not have to rely on one player to do it.
That's correct.
And to sacrifice being dominant defensively and to sacrifice being dominant in the midfield in order to play certain players that you think are going to benefit Messi is a bad strategy, I think. And that is, I think, being kind, because all of this formation, these players, like, I think Tata, even if I'm trying to be generous to Tata, I think he thinks it's going to maximize Messi and our offense. And you don't need that, because Messi doesn't need that. And neither does Luis Suárez. Okay. Thank you for listening to my rants. And thank you for the hug that you're going to give me after to make me feel better. I have one question for you. And I don't know if you noticed this, but I certainly did. Cello Weekend was coming in centrally a lot. And I wanted to know what you made of that.
I don't think that was by design. I think they were trying to control the midfield, and they noticed that Philadelphia had the numbers in there, because it wasn't just Cello. I think Alba came in a few times as well to help out. So I'm not sure what to make of that. I would have assumed if that was the role given to somebody, it would be to Jordi Alba. And that's how we scored our first goal. Jordi Alba coming centrally and creating that opportunity straight into Suárez, who then popped it off to Messi. So I'm not sure what that was about, but it also could do with the fact that Gresso was pushing out wide. So Cello Wigan was like, okay, I don't have the chance to try and go into the overlap or use the flanks too much. So maybe playing centrally and playing through the middle might be better. But I was a little bit confused by that tactic.
But it clogs up the middle when you want to create space for Messi and Suarez. And of course, you have, like, we talk about Gressel trying to occupy those spaces on the right side. I think I actually think it's all intentional, where he thinks Gressel's going to occupy that right side of the field. And so he can use Cello to maneuver in and out to try and create overloads in certain areas. But that's not Cello's game.
No.
And also, you don't need that because Messi and Suarez are so good. In fact, you really want to spread the defense out to give them more space. And then, of course, by doing that, you're taking Julian Gressel out of the midfield and putting him to the right side, where, again, he's not as useful in the midfield. I don't get it. I mean, like, I can understand the idea. I can understand why you think this might work on paper, but I think we've seen it and it doesn't help a ton. And I don't really like it.
I think with this team, you need to keep it simple.
Yeah,
you need to get the best out of the players in a very simple way, because that's how it's going to happen. Like, there's so much quality in this team that you don't even need to overcomplicate it. You don't have to play the Pep Guardiola style where you have two center backs playing as left back, right back, and then inverting inwards and all that crap. You just have to put the right players in the right spots and just let them do their thing. That's how it's going to be.
Yes, keep it simple. Okay, the last thing I wanted to talk about was the substitutes, and we don't have to spend much time on this. We know Tata is slow on the trigger when it comes to trying to regain the initiative in the game, but 79th minute felt late for Tata. Maybe it doesn't feel late for Tata. I don't know.
It doesn't.
But
don't you remember the game against Columbus where he didn't play a single player from the bench?
Dude, I remember the game against Monterrey when we were getting beat up in a must-win game, and he didn't make a sub the entire game. So, yes, I remember.
Man, we were 2-0 up against Columbus.
I know. So is there anything to even complain about, or everyone just understands it's not enough?
No, I think there were a couple of things. So first of all, the Noah Allen substitution. I thought Busquets going into the back line was the obvious choice. It was very interesting that he didn't do that, and I would love to pick his mind about that, because it just meant that he wanted Busquets in that midfield.
Can I offer a possibility?
Please do.
I think he knows this midfield is going to get overrun, and so he wants pace on the back line to defend one-on-one transition.
Yeah,
so I think that's what
maybe. But Noah Allen did a fantastic job, so absolutely no qualms about that particular substitution. I thought he was one of the better players on the pitch. He brought on Kremaski and Bright in, I think, the 70th minute, 81st minute, my bad. Kremaski came on because Gomez was injured. I don't know if he would have even come on if Gomez could go the full 90. Bright coming on as well was, I think, Julian Gressel tired, but bringing them on in the 81st minute makes absolutely no sense. When the other team is making like 4 substitutions or 5 substitutions within the course of 5-10 minutes, it's a bit of a weird one.
And their substitutions, which came starting in like the 60th minute when they brought in Bedoya and they brought in Adeniran, it made a difference. Yeah. And so you just left it out there for 20 minutes. I think this might be the biggest thing is Tata sometimes watches the other team make substitutes, and those substitutes change the game, and he doesn't have a response. But he doesn't have to wait 20 minutes to see if his guys can respond on the field. He can wait 5 minutes and then counter those subs with whatever is appropriate. And we've seen that a number of times. Should we go to awards? Because I think there's a lot of great things to talk about in the awards. But
and I don't want to talk about Tata Martino anymore.
I know. Marcelo, I see you have a comment in the chat. I think after we do awards, I will come back to a few chats that I thought were really interesting or really good questions, and I think maybe are worth talking about. But let's get to awards first. On this show, we give out 6 awards: a Inter Miami Man of the Match, a Heron that flew north, and then 2 individual awards each. And it is my turn to give out the Man of the Match. And
the easiest ever.
I think I got the easy one, man.
I feel like now it's going to become a little bit easier with Messi back to give out this award, because you know what? He's going to have a Man of the Match performance every single time he's on the pitch. So,
dude, he didn't have by his standard, good first 25 minutes, and yet he still was good. Like, he was still moving the ball. I was counting. When I rewatched the game today, I was planning on counting like all of the good, like only Messi could do that type moves. And after like 15 minutes, I already got to 4, and I was like, I'm not going to do this for all 90 minutes. He did like have a few plays where he ran into the other team, but he was phenomenal. I mean, he's back. I think he looked great. I think he's going to look even better if he plays on Wednesday. I think he's going to look great. I'm against NYCFC on next weekend. I am so excited for that October 2nd game against Columbus. I think seeing Messi go up against them and seeing if we can dominate the game when that's the case is going to be so much fun. But he's back, dude. And I will say one other thing. I think he's going to win the MVP.
There was a couple of instances in that first half, first 15 minutes where he passed the ball and it was straight to the opposition. He tried to run, make a dribble, and it was like a little bit, laborious. And then I was thinking to myself, I was like, okay, he is struggling a little bit because you could see that he's, not in fully fit form and obviously hasn't played for 3 months. And then he makes this one pass from behind the halfway line straight to Diego Gomez, which is like a cross-field ball, but it's like somewhat along the ground. It was beautiful. I thought, okay, Messi's back. And then he goes on, he scores
awesome.
2 goals,
He's awesome.
Gets another assist. If he wasn't there yesterday, we would have lost that game. I don't think we had it in us to win that game yesterday. The best player in the whole world, in the history of football, plays for this club. We are absolutely blessed that he does. And the one good thing about having Tata Martino as a coach, and despite all his idiotic decisions that he sometimes makes and our disagreements about the lineups that he picks, we still have Lionel Messi to pick us and drag us to that MLS Cup final and win it against a team like Columbus and LAFC. So if all goes to hell, at least we have Lionel Messi, who I agree with you could potentially be the MVP for this season.
Lucho Acosta for Cincinnati, good player, right? Really impactful.
Great player.
Really impactful. Defending MVP. He was the MVP last year.
Yeah.
He has 28 goal contributions. No, 29 goal contributions, sorry, in 26 games in the MLS.
In the MLS.
Lionel Messi has 28 in half the games. He's going to lead the league in goal contributions. He's going to win the MVP, and he's going to have played half the games this season. He is that good. And it's crazy because he actually is that good. We don't win last night without him, but also he's that good. He's going to win the MVP playing 18 games or maybe 19. He's going to win the MVP. He's going to win the MVP. Everyone just wrap your mind around this. He's going to win the MVP.
Okay, Scotty, you're good. You're good. We understood your point.
He's going to win the MVP.
He is going to win the MVP. Yeah.
And by the way, I called it first. Anything else about Messi? I don't know. He's great.
Messi is Messi. We love Messi. And as long as Messi is at this club, we will have something positive to talk about. So that's great.
Fair. Right, actually, though, you know what the only problem with Messi is? Because we have Messi, we expect to win every single game and dominate every single game. And so whenever we don't absolutely dominate a game, we think, man, who else messed up? How is this Tata's fault? Right? When we didn't have Messi, we were giving Tata so much credit.
Yeah. Who else messed up is absolutely correct. That is absolutely correct.
Okay.
Speaking of who else messed up,
our second award is the Heron That Flew North. And if this is your first time watching, we give this award to someone who was doing the wrong thing, because Florida Herons don't fly north. They fly nowhere because it's nice, warm, and sunny in South Florida. And so it's gonna be the player that wasn't doing the right thing. And fortunately, I got to pick Messi. So you tell me who wins the Heron That Flew North.
There are a couple of candidates from my end, and I'm sure other people in the chat might have some other thoughts. You might have some other thoughts as well, but I will give it to Julian Gressel because it's been a while since I've given this award to Julian Gressel. No, I thought no, I thought he had a poor game. Yeah, Sean mentioned in the chat that Aviles, he was my second pick as well. I was contemplating between Gressel and Aviles, but I ultimately went with Gressel because I thought the midfield was more of an issue yesterday than the defense. Gressel was a little bit caught out of position a few times. I don't know if that was his own fault. It also has to do with responsibilities. Gressel plays beautifully when he knows exactly what his responsibility is. When he knows he needs to come in, take the ball, and put it out into the final third. I feel like with Messi on the pitch and the combination of midfield in which he was playing yesterday, he doesn't necessarily understand what he brings to the team or what he's supposed to do. And he got lost yesterday. For large parts of the game, I didn't see him at all. Again, this is not a knock on the player, but I think this was more to do with the instructions in the system. And yesterday, Tata Martino did not get the best out of Julian Gressel. So maybe the award should go to Tata Martino. But I'm going to give it to Julian Gressel for this particular game because I thought his lack of presence in the midfield really cost us that midfield battle and allowed Philadelphia to come on to us.
I do think Aviles was the sort of obvious shout, so I appreciate you.
Yeah, but it is my award.
No, I appreciate I appreciate you thinking outside the box, man. I think Gressel suffers from being asked to do things that he's not. And I remember watching him for Vancouver last year, early in the season, and he was their best player. And like he can be a team's best player because he has that. But you have to put him in a position to succeed. And it feels right now that Tata is trying to force him into the lineup so that he can play, even though it doesn't fit him and his style or this team particularly well. So I hear you. Again, I think I would have picked Aviles just because
Can I be honest,
it was
guys?
more about the players. Yeah, what's up?
I have a really good award for Aviles. So I don't want to give him the heron that flew north award because I have a good award for him. So, yeah.
That is a good reason, I think. So to me, Gressel's a good player. He just is being asked to do something that he's not. And so I don't know what else to say about Gressel. I thought he was okay. I thought there was players that had worse performances in terms of turning the ball over, making mistakes, but I'm okay with it.
All right. What's your first award, Scotty?
My first award is the Makeup Bag Award.
The Makeup Bag Award?
Yeah, so your girlfriend will have a bag where she keeps all her makeup.
Yeah. But I don't know who on the team puts makeup. I am going to give this award to Noah Allen because he came on the pitch, dressed up beautifully, looked great, phenomenal hairstyle, and he absolutely bossed that centre-back position. So I'm going to give it to Noah Allen because he was fully made up yesterday.
It does go to Noah Allen. And I was thinking along the lines of like, you can put makeup on someone, but that doesn't change who they are. Like you can put lipstick on a pig was sort of where my mind was. Noah Allen's a fullback.
Lipstick
He's a
on
left
a
back.
pig would have been a better.
Well, but I didn't want to insult Noah Allen.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's a left back. He's a fullback. He spent his whole life. He played international soccer in the youth levels. He's a left back. He's got the profile of a left back. He's a left back. I have been repeating myself too much in this episode. I apologize for that. And he's been asked to become a center back where he doesn't profile physically well. Like that's not where he profiles. He's never played before, and he's doing it because he wants to play and he wants to be a part of this team and he wants to help the team win. And he's become really good, dude. He was awesome on it. He had like 3 or 4 moments where he single-handedly prevented a really, really good opportunity. I thought he was excellent in last night's game.
And not just last night, like a couple of times when he's been asked to do a job, he did really, really well. And I've been really surprised with his performances.
He has become a much better left back since he started. Like the improvement is obvious. I thought last night was his very best game as a left back for Inter Miami. And I think it's only going to, I'm sorry, as a center back. Thank you. I think it's only going to serve him well in the rest of his career when he eventually does go back to being a left back, having this period of his life where he had to play centrally because he's really good. And I hope he can start for us on Wednesday night.
And I will say, like, whenever Jordi Alba decides to retire, I think Noah Allen I would be very comfortable and excited to see Noah Allen take over as that starting left back position because he's done really well in a couple of games that he's played and in a position that he's not really, accustomed to that much. He's not even built for that position. And yesterday he had some saves. He had some plays that he made that essentially saved Inter Miami from conceding a goal, which is saying a lot for a player who doesn't even play center back. So I thought he was really good yesterday, and I would love to see him in that left back position and see how he develops into that position because that obviously is his natural position. But overall, yesterday he had a beautiful game.
Okay. What's your first award?
My first award is the Champagne Papi Award.
See, now I'm thinking this goes to Totavius because
No.
you said it, but I'm going to give it to Luis Suarez for being right where he needed to be at all times, just like a bottle of champagne on your birthday. I don't know.
That is unfortunately very, very wrong. And unlike me, you've never guessed a single award correctly. So I'm gonna give
I
this
don't think that's true.
Hey, prove it. Where's your receipt? Prove
That's
it.
fair. That's fair.
I'm gonna give this award to Drake Callender because Champagne Papi is actually Drake's Instagram handle, and by Drake I mean the musician Drake. So I was gonna say,
Okay.
so I was gonna equate that to Drake Callender, and I thought
I
you might know, but there you go, Drake Callender. Barring that questionable contribution to that goal where he may have been able to save it, slightly do better, I thought he had a near perfect performance yesterday in terms of how he controlled his box, in terms of how quick he was coming out in positions where his teammates put him in a lot of trouble. Aviles had twice put him in a three times put him in a very precarious position.
Four times.
That save with his chest outside the box was brilliant because he could have easily gone with his hands and conceded a free kick and got red carded. So the fact that he had the presence of mind to actually save it with his chest, get up in time and, control the box again. One instance where Sergio Busquets basically left him in dead man's zone, he was able to save that as well. I thought he was phenomenal. He was brilliant yesterday, and he was a big presence in that box, and we needed him to have a good game to be able to get something out of this.
2 games ago against Cincinnati, I gave him the Major Drake Award because I wanted to promote him from captain. But basically the idea was I think he's gotten more confident in coming out and coming off his line and being aggressive off his line. And he really showed it in that game. And so I said, like, this is an important next step for his development. And I hope it wasn't just a one game. And I thought he was really good about this last game. And I thought he was really good about this game. I think we are watching in front of our eyes Drake become confident in that next step in his game. And he's only going to be better off for it.
No, not Drake. Champagne Papi.
Champagne Papi. I think he had 7 saves and 4 inside the box. Although maybe I should double check that before I run with it. He was really good, dude. Really good. 7 saves, 4 inside the box. Yes. That's a great game. He had, you said it. The play where he had to come outside the box, the composure, the calmness, everything. It was great, dude. He's awesome. And it's a shame that that's not a shame that he's not the captain anymore. Obviously, Messi's the captain, but I think he really lived up to that. And even though he doesn't have the armband anymore, he played like he did. So great performance from Drake.
All right, next one.
I'm giving the Makeup Bag Award.
I don't like this theme. Last time I went with the chess theme, which was much better. This cosmetic theme doesn't suit us. The Makeup Bag Award. Does this go to Jordi Alba?
No. Think about what I just did 5 minutes ago when I gave the Makeup Bag Award to. What was it? Well, think about it. Think through it because you can get this.
You get you gave the Makeup Award to.
Right. And why did I give the Makeup Bag Award?
So you gave the Makeup Award to. So you gave the Makeup Award to Noah Allen because he was played out of position and he basically did a job in a different position. So now I have to think of a player who was out of position and did a job in position. Not Sergio Busquets, didn't necessarily play centre back. Jordi Alba, no. Julian Gressel, no, can't be because I gave him the Heron the Flew North Award. I can get this. Cello Egan, there you go. That's the award.
The Makeup Bag Award goes to Diego Gomez, who has been playing out of position as a left winger for too long. He's a midfielder. He's a midfielder. He's going to play as an 8 in the Premier League. He's the best number 8 in this league. And of course, I'm going to bring this back to the midfield because you thought I was done. I wasn't done complaining. Diego Gomez is a midfielder. He is one of the best midfielders in this league. And if you take out the number 10s that are goal threats on a consistent basis, he is the best number 8 in this league, possibly the best midfielder outside of those elite 10s. and you're playing him out of position. And yes, he might upgrade the left wing position over Robert Taylor. Like, I can give you that. But he's not as good of a left winger as he is an 8. And you are struggling to control the midfield. And it was cool that he could do it. It was cool that he could provide offense. It was cool that he could press high up the field. But you're no longer pressing high up the field with Messi and Suárez in the lineup. And you are not controlling the midfield like you did 2 months ago. I'm telling you, if you put Diego Gomez and Yannick Bright in the same midfield, you will own every single midfield. And it feels like everyone just assumes he's a forward now. He's not a forward. Brighton doesn't think he's a forward, but somehow Tata does. And I know he plays as a forward for Paraguay, but that's because Paraguay needs goal scoring from their offense or from their forwards. And Gomez is one of their best like goal scoring threats. Inter Miami doesn't need that because we have Lionel freaking Messi and Luis Suarez. Put Gomez back in the midfield because that's what he is best at. I don't understand how everyone just forgot that he's the best number 8 in the entire league. And you're taking that away from us by putting him on the left wing. I don't get it.
You know what it is? When Messi wasn't in the team, you could have actually seen Gomez play in that left wing spot because I think he does a good job there. He's a really good left winger.
No, I agree. He's a good left winger.
But now that Messi's back, it all comes down to compositions and chemistry and what the best makeup of this team is, as you're taking a word from your own book of awards. The makeup of this team, I think, dictates a different sort of a profile when Messi is on the other side of the pitch. And for me, you need a winger who is slightly more expansive than Diego Gomez. And you need midfielders that are slightly more athletic than what we had yesterday. When you have Diego Gomez, forget about Bright. When you have Diego Gomez in the midfield, he will win the ball for you up top 9 out of 10 times that he goes in for a tackle. And that's facts. Like, he's done that for us throughout this season. So I agree with you. I know there's a lot of people out there who will say that he's a better left winger, and there might be a debate for that, but I completely agree with you. I think he suits our midfield more. And I think for me, the best midfield combination is Busquets, Bright, and Gomez. And that's it. No two ways about it.
I'm telling you, if we see that midfield, we're going to win every single game that midfield plays the majority of the game. I wanted to go back to the offside goal that Inter Miami scored in the last moments of the first half, where Messi got the assist and then Suarez put it in the back of the net, and it got called up because Messi was half a yard offsides. That play started because Gomez, because of how the run of play was going, he had cut in centrally to try and make a play. So he was just in the middle of the park. And because the ball came towards him, he instinctually pressed him, won the ball, tapped it to Busquets, who immediately put it right into Messi, who used his vision to get the ball to Suarez, and we scored a goal. That moment was exactly what this team could be at its absolute best, is Gomez winning the ball in the midfield, tapping it to Busquets, who has the ball facing forward. The defense is caught out of position, and he can put in those precise passes to create opportunities right away. And then just throw Yannick Bright back in there to wrap everything up, and it's perfect. Go back and watch that moment, everyone, if you can find the highlight, because those two were in the central part of the park, Busquets and Gomez, and it played off exactly like you would expect it to, and it led to what would have been a goal if Messi was 2 steps forward. And it was beautiful. So he gets the makeup bag award because he's really a midfielder, and that's all I have to say about it.
I will say, man, you need to start doing a little bit better on your award names. The makeup award and the makeup bag award, not good. We need better.
No. Sorry. They were both the makeup bag award. It was the same name, just so we're clear. While we're piling on the lack of creativity, it was the same award twice. Before we leave, I think we agree with Gomez in the midfield, at least to see it a couple times, right? At left wing, you're cool with just Robert Taylor or Matthias Ross?
Yeah.
Oh, me too. I think so too.
They're perfect for that. I don't know why we've not seen enough of Robert Taylor this season.
Or lately, dude. It's been weird.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your last award?
I'm going to give the Network Latency Award.
The Network Latency Award goes to Toto Aviles.
I mean, I kind of gave it away, but yes, it goes to Toto Aviles. Has anyone ever played FIFA on lag? and tried to go in for a tackle. And every time you press that square button on your PlayStation, your player just slides in 3 seconds late, and then you get sent off. And then all your friends curse you for playing a man down. That's basically what Toto Aviles feels like. He feels like a player on FIFA who's playing with a consistent network latency and a lag. And that's so annoying because yesterday he had that tackle that he got the yellow card for, which was a little bit late. And it feels like he's been making that tackle every single game. It's not even a joke that he comes back from suspension and gets suspended again. Like, this is a problem. He needs to be sat down and given a talk. He needs an intervention because I don't know what he's doing in training because he's had a few instances where he's very late in tackles, either loses the ball and then tries to make up for it, or just doesn't go in with his head and makes a rash decision. And he needs to cut that out from his game, man, because that's going to cost him a move to maybe a much better club in Europe compared to a lower level club in Europe.
I don't know what to say. You guys saw it. You guys watched the performance. He's going to get better. He's a young player. And I know I say that every time we talk about Aviles, but he's going to play. And you just hope that it's one of the games that he doesn't really.
Yeah, but he would play a lot more if he didn't get a yellow card every 2 games.
I know. I know. That's true. It feels like it's more than every 2 games. I wish I had a tracker that tracked specific game by game on how many yellow cards he's getting. I do want to go back to the chat because I've been sort of saving questions from the chat that I think are interesting. But before we do, I want to wrap up the scheduled part of this with the Supporters Shield race, or what the MLS table looks like. Inter Miami got 3 points last night, as we all saw. There was 2 rivalry games that greatly impacted Inter Miami. That was Columbus versus Cincinnati, and the Galaxy and LAFC out in LA, El Tráfico. Hell is real in Ohio. 0-0 was the final score in Ohio, which in Columbus-Cincinnati game. So they both dropped 2 points. LAFC went up 2-0 in the first half, and then they gave up 4 goals in the second half. They lose 4-2. So the Galaxy get 3 points, which means LAFC drops 3 points. As it stands at this moment, Inter Miami has a 10-point lead on Cincinnati, even on games played. We have a 12-point lead on Columbus. They have 1 game in hand, so even if they win, it's a 9-point lead. Against the Galaxy, we have a 7-point lead, and we have a game in hand. So if we win that game in hand, it's a 10-point lead. And LAFC has 48. We have 14-point lead on LAFC. They have a game in hand, so if they win, it's 11 points. The Supporters Shield race is over. I said this last week, but it only helped this week. The Supporters Shield race is over. Inter Miami is going to win the Supporters Shield. They are going to win the East. They're going to have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. They're going to get their berth into the CONCACAF Champions Cup. They're not going to have to worry about the do-or-die games in the playoffs. It's going to happen. I know you might not be ready to admit it, but it's going to happen. And that's awesome. Any responses, or should I go back to the chat?
No, I don't even want to add anything to that. You know what my stance is? I am going to stay conservative about this till it's absolutely wrapped and dusted, because this is football and anything can happen in football. But Inter Miami is in a very, very pretty position. And for anyone who might have heard this podcast for the last 25 minutes may think that we're languishing at the bottom of the table, but that's not the case. Inter Miami is still the best team in the MLS. We are still going to be the best team in the MLS come the playoffs. I just hope that we're able to seal the deal when it truly matters, because let's be honest, I don't think any one of us is going to be satisfied if we only win the Supporters Shield. We won that MLS Cup, and that's what it's about. So hopefully we can build towards that, and over the next 5-6 games, we see much more in terms of performances that are geared towards beating the best teams in the league.
Just for anyone that's keeping track at home, I believe we are 10 points away from sealing it. I don't think we're going to need the 10 points because other teams will drop. But the closest team, if you include games in hand, would be the Columbus Crew, who we would have a 9-point lead on with 6 games to play, which means if we won 3 games and lost 3 and they won all 6, they would probably win. They would win on goal differential probably. But we get 3 wins and a draw, or they drop points. like it's going to get real easy. So it's over, man. It's over. It's over. That's just all it is. Bizrat says, I was watching El Tráfico yesterday, speaking of, and all I could think about was how the playoffs would be like with these deadly LA attacking teams in front of what Inter Miami has and put out yesterday. In my head, it's so simple. You solve the midfield, you eliminate half of the opportunities right there, and then you also are putting your defense in a better position to defend. You're gonna be much better as long as you figure out the personnel, especially in the midfield. And so, yes, if we go in with the midfield we had last night against those teams, you are very worried. If you go in with a more balanced midfield, you feel a lot better. Ash says that hero ball is not a sound strategy. I agree.
Only when that hero is Lionel Messi, then it works.
No, but just dominate defensively, dominate the midfield, and then you'll be fine. That's it. And then just let Messi do what he's going to do. Like, dominate every aspect of the game if you have the personnel, and I think we have the personnel. Right in the middle, and Busquets as a center back has been working, says A. I think Tata feels like he needs a different midfield in order to feed Messi, apparently at the expense of a solid defense. I think I read this earlier, and I think you're absolutely right. Tata's putting out this 11 because he thinks it best maximizes what Messi is. I agree with you. And he doesn't need to do that, because Messi doesn't need the whole team to be based around him for him to be awesome and contribute. So I agree with you, and I think it's silly. And so could there be a footballing reason? I don't think a coach can promise any mortal player a start. That's the football reason. I think you nailed it. Tony says Gressel, Busquets, and Redondo are all too slow and get bypassed too easily. I know I didn't mention that they all lack pace, because I think it's a little like, when you talk about that, you're actually putting the blame on the player. And I don't think the blame's on the player. I think it's players. I think it's the personnel grouping, how they fit together. But it is true that none of them have the pace that you would want. Tony says, Miami are selling this big dream to South American stars as the gateway to Europe. They are going to give those U22s as much exposure as possible. And this was in regards to when we were talking about Redondo or who's playing. That's absolutely true. But at the same time, we're getting into the time where we have to see who's the best 11 for the playoffs. They have played plenty of minutes this year. Redondo is sitting on 1,400 minutes. He's going to get 1,700 minutes without a doubt this year. And that is plenty for a 21-year-old to show what he's made of. And again, he's going to be back in January or February and have more time before next summer, which would be when he might be on the selling block. And then a couple defenses of Tata, which I absolutely respect. Again, if you're an Inter Miami fan and you just want to be happy that we just beat a team 3-1, that's great. And I hope you really enjoy it. Marcelo says, people are complaining about Tata's work. He built the best team in your league. The team is 10 points above and people are griping. That's fair. That's absolutely fair. But at the same time, I want our team to be the best that we can be. And Tata built a very good team. He added a lot of really good pieces, but there were also a lot of pieces that didn't come from Tata. Yannick Bright, Ian Frey, Benjamin Karaski, Leo Campana. And it feels like a lot of them have been pushed to the side, even if they are playing better at times than whoever's playing ahead of them. So I'll give you a chance. Sorry for stealing all this time, but I just want Inter Miami to be the best that they can possibly be. And I'll always put the onus on the coach to get the best out of the team. So you're right. They are doing great. And Tata, I think, deserves a lot of credit for where they are. But I still want to see us win the MLS Cup.
Yeah, and I feel like at this point in time, yes, we may be the best team in the league, but there's still a question mark about whether we can beat some of the other best teams in the league, such as Columbus, Cincinnati, the LA teams. I think with this team that we have set up with Tata Martino, with the tactics that he sometimes plays, it doesn't put us in the best position to get the best out of every single player on the pitch. And that's what we want. We want the best for the team overall, and to be able to say that, yeah, we are maximizing every single asset that we have throughout the roster in the best way possible. And that's why we have these conversations about what the best midfield looks like, what the best defense looks like, because there's still room for improvement every single game that we play. And I don't think this team has reached the final epitome of its creation. I think there's a lot that we can get in terms of maximizing the output. And it's just a little frustrating that Tata Martino has sort of hampered that progress, according to us. But yeah, it's a very good opinion in the fact that we are 10 points clear. We are playing some really good football, and he has got us through some tough times without the best player on the pitch. So no qualms about Tata Martino as such. But yes, we can sometimes tend to criticize him a little bit more because we want more from this team.
Yeah. Anyone that thinks Tata is doing a great job, I respect your opinion, and I think you have great arguments.
We're definitely not on the Tata out bandwagon, so don't. Yeah, we should clarify that.
Yes, and by the way, the chat is saying that the tiebreaker for the MLS is wins, not goal differential. So I apologize. Inter Miami's 3 wins away, 9 points from
even better
the Supporter Shield, so even better. And then again, along the Tata lines, A says the argument is that Tata limits players by playing them out of position. With all the injuries he's had to, and we are on top of the standings, about to win another trophy. Hard to hate him. Again, that's fair. I think it's not just that he plays them out of position, but that he has players that could slot in that are in the right position, and he doesn't do that. This is a team with a tremendous amount of depth, so it feels like when he has all the depth is when he tends to make the wrong decisions, and it's when he has the injuries that he really puts out his best lineups. That's just my opinion. And then one last one from Rohan. The fan base, and this made me laugh because there's real truth in it. Rohan says the fan base has not tasted success and has no idea how short-lived this high can be. So yeah, they're missing out on enjoying where they are right now. My response to that is, I think Saur and I both know this is not going to last, because this exists because Messi's here, and whether Messi's here for 14 more months or he's here for 26 more months, right? We know this is going to end, and everything that we have right now is going to fall apart. And so we want to maximize what we can achieve in this window. And so again, that's why I think we don't want to waste any opportunity. And I do feel like we were a little wasteful in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And I do think we were a little wasteful in this League's Cup. So I just want to win all the trophies while we have this amazing team. And does that make me spoiled? Probably. Okay, Saur, final words to you, and then we'll wrap it up.
We're at a point in our season where there's a discussion about whether we should be satisfied with winning everything the way we're winning, or whether we should be looking at the future and see if we can actually win that MLS Cup. At this point in time, I don't think there's any doubt about the fact that it's not 100% guaranteed that when we go up against the best team in the league, that we will be able to win. That being said, we've been winning. We've been winning by a lot, and we've been 10 points ahead from every other team in the league, sitting pretty on top. The MLS Supporter Shield is almost locked in, and the only way is up for this team. I didn't necessarily enjoy yesterday's game, but we still got the result. We're going to be back again midweek. Every single time Inter Miami plays, we're going to be back again. We're going to enjoy Inter Miami play. We're going to enjoy Messi take that pitch. And hopefully we can see it to the final line and see it beyond that and get that MLS Cup that we also desire very much.
Perfect. Just a couple quick notes to end this. Inter Miami 2 just beat Philadelphia Union 2, 3-2. Ryan Saylor got a goal. So hopefully if he has to play on Wednesday, he's coming in with a lot of confidence. And then also I tweeted out this morning, but just for the podcast, things that are on the table. And as Saur so elegantly put it earlier last week, the jewels in the crown of this title, the Supporter Shield, the points record, the CONCACAF Champions Cup berth, the MVP, which is going to be Messi, and the Golden Boot, which might also be Messi, but could be Suárez. And then also the Canadian sweep, which is just this little fun thing that I really want us to do. All of those things are on the table over the next couple of weeks. We will continue that journey on Wednesday. We play at Atlanta, down a few players. It'll be an interesting back line. We'll see what Tata does, but we will be back to break it down in the pregame show. And, all the usual things you expect from us. Guys, it's so fun. Thanks for being in the chat. And I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Let's go, Herons. And we will see you guys next time. Have a wonderful night.